بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. أسعد الله صباحكم.
In the name of God, the most compassionate, the most merciful, good morning. It's my pleasure to moderate the first session of this conference after listening to the important speeches. If you allow me, I would like, on behalf of all of you, to express my thanks to Emirates Policy Center for organizing this conference at this important time, and we hope that we'll come up with important conclusions. The title of the session, as you know, is the UAE under the leadership of His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan, marching toward the future. The center has made it a habit that the first session will always be on the UAE. This is the 9th edition of our forum, and it's held within a new leader, new president of the UAE, who is His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan. His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan will be leading the third stage of the UAE. As you know, the first stage was under the leadership of the founding father, the late Sheikh Zayed bin Sultan Al Nahyan, and it was the foundation stage. And then the second stage under the leadership of the late Sheikh Khalifa bin Zayed Al Nahyan, and it was the empowerment stage. And we should not forget that His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan has played a major role in both stages. He graduated from the school of the late Sheikh Zayed, and he participated with his brother Sheikh Khalifa bin Zayed in the phase of empowerment. So the new stage we are about to talk about is the post-oil stage, and I will quote a quotation of Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed later on in the summit government in 2015 on the post-oil era. In that era, it was decided to call it the era of eyes into the future. So it's building for a new era that will complete the work of the founding father and the empowerment era. His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan said in the government summit, we will celebrate the export of the last barrel of oil, and our main challenge at the time being is to invest all our capabilities in education. In our session today, we'll try to shed light on the vision of Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan and his role in the last long years in developing the country and society and sustainable development for Asian and international arena. The speaker in this session is Her Excellency Dr. Ebtesam Al-Ketbi. We don't need to introduce her, but the protocol of the conference make it compulsory to make an introduction. So she is the founder and director of Abu Dhabi Emirate Policy Center, which is one of the main centers in the region. She is professor of politics in the UAE University. She was in 2015 a member of the Supreme Council for Gulf States, and in 2018 she was selected among the most 50 influential women in the Arab world. In 2019 she obtained the prize of the most distinguished woman from the Council of Women Leaders. In 2021, she was selected as consultant at the International Commission for the Post-Pandemic, and she has many positions in different organizations in the world. And she published many books. The last one is The Model of the UAE in Empowering Women, the model of Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed. In these books, most of the themes of our conference will evolve around it. Dr. Ebtesam, in your book, you posed many thematic questions about Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan, and our session we will try to answer some of those questions. You also spoke in your introduction earlier about some aspects of the personality of Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed and his vision. And just like for me, like the weather presenters, I will just say this is now the main news. So definitely Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed contributed significantly in the last era, whether it's the foundation or the empowerment. And we would like to shed light on the role that His Highness played in the previous stages before talking about eyes into the future. Actually, we cannot talk about the UAE model, which is a pioneering model in the region, without talking about the crucial role of Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed in building this model, and developing it, and developing it within difficult conditions, and making sure that this model evolve. The impact of and the role of Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed in building the leading model of the UAE during 3 decades is something we cannot overlook. And the leading role of Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed in this model is that he combined both soft power and hard power. We can talk here about different points, and the most important one is that with his military background, and in the last 3 decades, Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed took the leadership and made sure to develop the military organizations in the UAE. The friends of the UAE and keeping friendship from other countries of the UAE was among the priorities of the UAE. And also during the war of liberation of Kuwait was a crucial moment. That war showcased that relying on soft power only is not enough. There is a need to build up on hard power as well. Therefore, came up the idea of developing the military institution in the UAE. And we had a small military institution, not more than 600,000 soldiers. Now the UAE is ranked number 36 worldwide and the 5th at the Arab level in the classification of military power according to the website Global Firepower for the year 2022. The military institution also played a role in maintaining social cohesion and keeping identity and empowering human resources and modernizing society. Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed launched his strategic project to modernize society and empower women and the youth, reform education, which is one of the main priorities of Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed, developing economy, attracting talented people. All this vision, we saw its impact through the vision of the 100 years of the UAE. 100 UAE vision of the UAE. So this vision explains what the UAE would like to look like in the next 50 years. The other thing that Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed established is the institutionalization of economy diversification. In other words, to diversify economy, to diversify energy sources, to diversify partnership with superpower and emerging power, to diversify weapon import countries, to modernize the content of media, to modernize education and culture, to make sure that society becomes more tolerant and more accepting of the others. Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed took the foreign policy of the UAE to a level more efficient, to a new stage. And in the last 2 decades, the UAE moved from being a regional actor with significant importance, with diplomatic role, like the success, the story of success that became a role model in the region, with a lot of heritage, a lot of conflicts. And it was clear also that how the way the UAE could get away from different ideologies that were dominating, and the populism, it was like a leverage for development of the UAE in an accelerating pace. The UAE now is the third economy in the Middle East. All this success is attributed to the vision and acuity of this man, His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed. Regarding the model of the UAE in building power, it has used the economic transformation that took place in the first quarter of this century. Is that correct? Yes, there is no doubt that preparedness was one of the reasons for the success, and it helped to establish the main routes for the success of the UAE. Let me here clarify some points which indicate the importance of the first decades of the century for the UAE. Regarding what is happening now, that's the result of proactive planning of the UAE in the early years, and is still going on until now. Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan was the leader of that planning. On the other hand, if we go back a little bit, and we can see that the rising prices of oil in 2005 was an opportunity for the UAE to protect its economic position and to embark on a new era and occupy a new position in its power, through a new vision of the sovereignty fund, diversification of investments and development of diplomatic tools of the UAE, and the structure in the foreign policy of the UAE after the challenge of Dubai ports in 2005. This experience was, although it was a difficult experience, but it was beneficial and helped the diplomacy of the UAE. this era witnessed also renaissance in terms of the major projects of the UAE. We witnessed the development of infrastructure, logistics, and amendments to regulations and laws. There was lots of initiatives that were launched, like establishment of Sorbonne University, Louvre Museum, Masdar City for clean energy in Abu Dhabi. From 2009, UAE has been hosting the main head office of Energy Arena. There has been a lot of investment in nuclear energy, and the idea started in 2008. In addition to technology, digital technology, artificial intelligence, and now we are investing in space sciences. I mentioned these indicators and steps to urge the researchers and scholars, especially in the West, to change their stereotypes about the UAE, that it's the modification of its oil and foreign policy happened after the Arab Spring only. What I mentioned earlier showcases that the first stages were before the Arab Spring, and it was not the result or a response to the Arab Spring. Doctor, you focused in your book and also in your speech on the fact that the future of the UAE policy is based on two pillars. Build self-development and building alliances and partnership. What's the main denominators for this path? If you follow the UAE policy and you analyze it, you will notice that there is a common denominator between these policies, which is expanding opportunities. In other words, if you observe the march of the UAE, at least in the last 2 decades, you will notice that combining self-development and building alliances is one thing, and that in order to succeed, you need to expand your opportunities windows and to pay the cost, believing that there are opportunities that are worthwhile for you to have the results, and that hesitation that are not justified will make you lose such opportunities. In my opinion, such pattern of awareness was the main driver behind the leadership thinking, especially Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed, about the model to follow. The UAE, which has the UAE represents 15% of the world trade. Imagine that the UAE is this small country. If you want to develop yourself, you need to have strategies of sustainable development. These are the vision of Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed for building comprehensive power with the soft power and the hard power, and building for the future. To be clear and to shed more light on the partnerships and this understanding and the new partnership that the UAE concluded. What are the most prominent partnerships and what do we expect for the next years? There are so many, and I cannot mention all of them, but in this year, UAE signed an economic partnership, a comprehensive partnership with India and Israel and Indonesia. UAE also, besides Egypt, Jordan, this year announced an industrial partnership to achieve sustainable economic development for the three countries. For the future, UAE will sign 4 to 5 comprehensive partnership agreements before next March. There will be 2 economic partnerships with Turkey, with Colombia before the end of this year, and 2 other agreements before the end of the first quarter of next year with Georgia and Cambodia. And there are plans of expansion in Africa and Australia, Central Asia, Eastern Europe. And also, UAE agreed with Kenya to start discussion for economic partnership. So we see this diversification between the West and the East across continents. And this highlights what I mentioned in the book about the manifestation of the vision of Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed about diversification of partnerships. Dr. Ebtesam, we know that the main challenges to global peace lies in 3 titles: energy, climate, food. How can the UAE contribute in facing these challenges? There are continuously confirmations from the UAE about this, and Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed always confirmed that partnership only with partnership, in partnership with other countries, we can overcome the interconnected challenges that the world is facing, mainly food, energy, climate change, healthcare. In last participation of Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed at COP27 in Sharm el-Sheikh, he mentioned that climate change has also impact on peace and stability in the world, and we need the convergence of efforts worldwide and also at the regional level. On the sidelines of COP27, there was an agreement was signed between the UAE and Egypt to launch the main project of wind energy in Egypt. Also, UAE, Jordan, and Israel signed an agreement, a memorandum of understanding during the COP27 in order to generate clean energy and to desalinate water. So there are lots and lots of initiatives in the Arab world, in the Middle East, and the rest of the world. There are investments in solar energy and providing clean water and also food supplies for other countries. There are lots of initiatives and projects for the future. Everything that is happening now on the field is manifestation of the vision of Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed and his planning. Dr. Ebtesam, given all this data that indicate some aspects of the prospects and the vision of the UAE to the future. This data make us wonder what is the relationship between diversification of economy and preparedness for the post-oil era and the building partnership on the other hand. The policy of economic diversification in the UAE goes hand in hand with diversification of partnership of the UAE with the superpowers, with the emerging economies of the world. And the preparedness for the post-oil era would not happen unless we have an open foreign policy. We need to build more bridges with partners, and development of economy would not be possible with a limited policy. The vision of Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed started through this combination between foreign and internal policy that would lead the country towards an identity that is diversified and rich. Dr. Ebtesam, we talk a lot about the 100 years, celebrating the 100 years of the UAE, and we have lots of details within this theme. How does the UAE leadership and Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed, how does it look to the future of the UAE within this strategy of the 100 years of the Union? After the stage of the foundation led by the late Sheikh Zayed and the stage of empowerment led by the late Sheikh Khalifa bin Zayed, now Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed is leading what I would call the pioneer in the development model of the UAE and upscaling the criteria of competitiveness for the post-oil era. Throughout the last decades, Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed managed to analyze the changes in the balance of power and to adapt to them. After the end of the Cold War, the Middle East was no longer like it was before. There has been changes in the countries of the center and the peripheral countries, and the central countries are no longer central. There has been changes in the concept of power and its distribution and its balance. Therefore, there was a change in priorities, in interests and values of conflict. So we could be here facing a clear model that's called in administration science as the leadership with change, where the leader would make a positive leap that will be fruitful for the institution and for the people. The strategies of the UAE, my friend Ali, would not be possible if there is no stability, if there is no cooperation with other countries. The hot spot that are burning in the country, they would go against the UAE interest. They will not help the development. Therefore, we can see that the UAE is always seeking to end the conflicts in the region and always trying to cooperate with others, and we can mention at this stage the signing of the Abraham Accords. Dr. Ebtesam, last year we celebrated 50 years of the UAE Foundation. we celebrated the golden jubilee of the UAE. Lots of projects were presented for the 50 years. How can we look at those projects compared to the previous years? The UAE leadership has always made sure that and highlighted that diversification is a main platform for sustainable development and for competitiveness and for preparedness for a better future. As part of the projects of the next 50 years. The main pillars of UAE economy, it's based on three areas: diversification of commercial partnership and investment in technology and advanced industries, creating new sectors and competitive sectors. And this is how the UAE economy will look like in the future. But there are challenges. There is an internal challenge the UAE is facing, which is the increasing investment in education quality, in scientific research, in developing universities and empowering human resources. The local human resources in specialized fields, and also the challenge of changing the mentality. And this goes in line with attracting talents from overseas and developing systems of the new system of UAE visa. The other challenge is external. As I mentioned in the last point, the UAE is not living away from everyone else. It's living in an area full of conflicts and crises. And the prosperous model and the foreign policy and the economy cannot be successful if there are crises and conflicts on a continuous basis. But it doesn't mean that we need to stop and wait for the region to recover from the conflicts and the crises. But you need to take the initiatives and put an end to those conflicts. In June of this year, the first speech of His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed, since he took power of the UAE, he mentioned that diversification of our economy is a strategic necessity within our plans for development. He also said that priorities of the UAE include developing our capabilities in sciences and technology. So this reflects an advanced and well-informed thinking of how you can reach a better future. So the UAE has formed a new council to encourage innovation and to interact with the fourth evolution, artificial intelligence, robotics, space research, and 3D printing and medical research and technology. So now all this is changing the world and changing the fate of a human being like we have never seen before. The UAE always try to be ahead of the time and not to be lagging behind. Try to learn from the successful lessons and from failures also. And making sure to listen to what happened in the past and to learn from history. Dr. Ebtesam, maybe this will be my last question. At the introduction of the book, you posed many questions. I will mention some of them, and I hope I can know to what extent did the book manage to answer these questions. In one question, you said, how did Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed make the UAE move from being a small state at the international level to an active actor? What are the criteria of the UAE? Should we adopt a qualitative criteria instead of quantity? And should we consider the UAE as a model? What are the main elements that the UAE has in its model of power? What are the pillars of the UAE for building power and preparing for the future? Geography has made the small country of the UAE. How did the UAE overcome that and become influential? I don't want to spoil the joy of reading the book by the audience by mentioning everything, but I want to know to what extent did you manage to answer these questions in your book? Did you find the answers in the book? I would not answer, but I prefer that you give me the answers. Look, Ali, the goal of the book is not publicity. It's an academic book. I wanted to give credit to Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed because he is the leader of this development model. I wanted to shed light on a model of a power of small state living within different challenges. The Gulf area is also a country of turmoil. We have countries that are trying to dominate. We have small countries that are fighting within the region that's full of conflicts, which also, on the other hand, are part of a region within the world full of conflicts. So such a small state, how can it adapt with all these changes and conflicts from within the concept of survival, and to build its own model based on its own agenda and the regional agenda? So I was also working hard to adapt to the project of Sheikh Mohammed and up to 2021. But after that, maybe we'll need new books to stay ahead of everything. So I will not say that this book is covering everything that Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed did, but I want the Western scholars and the researchers can be able to get the main idea about the UAE as a model and to delve deep into this model, to know about the strengths it has. We don't have much about soft. We did not talk a lot about soft power of the UAE and its leading role in the humanitarian aid it gave to countries from the east and the west. And I should confess that we UAE citizens we shy away from promoting our model. Maybe we need to promote such initiatives more. Thank you, Doctor. I can only say that I found answers in your book, different chapters of this book, and I invite the audience to read this book because it's the first book on the vision of Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan in building power after he took power in the UAE in the month of May. Before we finish the session, we'll watch a short film on this book.
الحضور
Ladies and gentlemen, we were supposed to take some questions at the end of this session, but because we started late by 1 hour, we won't be able to take your questions, and I will thank you very much for your listening. I thank Dr. Ebtesam Al-Ketbi for her insight about her book, The United Arab Emirates, its model in building strength. And I would like to conclude this session. Peace be upon you.